In terms of, we have a new poll out, ABC News, and it shows some pretty bad numbers about 51%, bad numbers for the president, 51% would rather have the Republicans run Congress to act as a check on Obama's policies. Why do you think a majority of the country would want the other party to take over to be a check on Obama's policies?
I assume polled a fair number of respondents on that can weigh in on what they're. But
why are you not concerned that?
Well, that's not what you asked.
Okay. Are you concerned, and why do you think there is this reaction to have a Republican Congress serve as a check on the president?
Well, I will say, if you look at certain numbers in there, you ask voters, particularly on the economy, who do you trust more to make the right decisions? And the answer is they trust more Democrats than they do Republicans. So, Jake, I think I've said this over the past couple of days as we've gotten into more of this political discussion. I think there is, rightly so, a great frustration in this country with where we are economically, and understanding the depths of the numbers of jobs that were lost, the length of this recession, what it has meant for people on Main Street, what it has meant for, we've talked about in this, the types of unemployment range much differently than would in a normal recession. You see this affecting not just lower skilled workers, but higher skilled, college educated workers in a way that we haven't seen in previous recessions. Again, I think there is a very big frustration out there about where we are in the economy. The president is one of those that's frustrated, and we'll continue to work on where we are in this recovery to strengthen it. I will say a couple of different things. Obviously, the president's going to go to Michigan on Thursday and talk about investments that have been made in the Recovery Act that are creating jobs through entirely new industries that we've brought to this country. We're going to continue to work, as I talked about a minute ago, on ensuring that we have an extension of unemployment insurance to deal with the long-term unemployed, increased lending to small business. All of this stuff is going to take some time because it took us quite a bit of time to get into the economic situation that we're in today.
Do you think that's the only reason? It's the economic reason?
Looking at your poll, I think almost all of, judging from what I read from the poll, I think that most of this frustration is from the economy, yes. That was my reading. Yep.
If I can follow on that, Robert, why then is the same poll saying that 6 in 10 Americans have little or no faith in the president to make the right decisions? That doesn't seem to have anything to do with maybe the economy or even Republicans. It's about him.
Well, no, actually, Republicans they think less of. So it probably, that number doesn't probably have a lot to do with Republicans. I think, Ed, I think on that, again, I think, I have my chart here. Let me go through I think it's that. That's what I think it is.
Okay, but the president's been in office for 18 months. You're going back to?
I'm going back to December of 2007. So I'm going back more than, almost a year more than the president was, well, more than a year before the president was inaugurated. But again, as we've talked about this, adding up the depth of this line, and this line doesn't equal the depth of this line, right? This represents 8.5 million jobs lost.
So you're not worried that the president is losing, particularly Americans and independent voters, particularly won in 2008. You're not worried they're losing faith in this president?
Oh, well, look, again, I think they are frustrated at the pace of our economic recovery. The president is frustrated at that pace. I do think, we've talked about this, I do think in an election we'll have a choice. I do think one of the things that the poll probably doesn't measure, and I don't think was intended to measure, was necessarily forcing the choice between what got us here and what is getting us out. But I think that's exactly the type of choice that we'll have come November.
Is there at least a frustration here that the president now has accomplished several things that he said he wanted to do, from the stimulus, health care, now the Wall Street reform bill that you mentioned a moment ago? But it seems like the American people are not really giving him credit. How do you turn that around between now and November?
Look, I think, one, we've got to keep working and pushing on improving the economy. again, if you look at where, this is more than 2 years. This is 2 years into the recession, and you're finally seeing a bottoming out of the job situation, which means the economy is beginning to hire. As you can see, look at these recessions don't last the length of time. This one lasts a pretty good while, but it's not nearly as deep. So again, I think there is a frustration with the economy, which is understandable. That's why the president undertook many decisions that he did. Again, some not polling popular, some may not pay dividends in 1 or 2 months, but if you go to the Recovery Act, right, for $100 billion in investments, it leveraged an additional $250 billion in investments.